Hello, Internet. I'm Becky. These are Inglorious Reviews. Tonight we're going to take a look at Arrow 315, Nanda Parbat. Everyone is stupid. Just, oh my goodness, everyone on this show is so stupid. Oliver is stupid. Thea is stupid. It just is also stupid. Oh my gosh. From the beginning of Season 3, I have complained that the show is so invested in keeping Malcolm around that it makes all their characters, especially Oliver, go through all these ridiculous mental gymnastics to justify keeping Malcolm around, just by protecting him, despite everything he's done. And oh my gosh, we have reached the apex of the stupid mental gymnastics. Oh my goodness. So Thea finds out Malcolm did, and she tells Laura what happened. And Thea decides to contact the League of Assassins to bring in Malcolm for judgment for all the things he's done. And Oliver decides that despite everything that Thea says, despite the fact that Thea has made a fully informed decision, finally can make a fully informed decision, she decides that she wants to give Malcolm up. And she tells Oliver that this is her decision, and she doesn't regret it, and she's glad she's gone. But Oliver completely ignores, and again we see Oliver's, oh my gosh, we see Oliver's stupid habit of making other people's decisions for them and deciding what's best for them. He decides to just completely ignore everything Thea's saying and go to Nanda Parbat to rescue Malcolm because he is sure that Thea will come to regret giving him up. And it's just really stupid. Everyone on the show, I talked about this a few weeks ago, everyone on the show just seems to forget the fact that he is responsible for the deaths of 503 people and the destruction of an entire city district with that earthquake machine. And not to mention the fact that he killed Sarah. And so when Malcolm is given up, it seemed like a bad thing, and Oliver's like, well, you guys don't want justice, you want vengeance. And it's like, well, no, they want justice. I mean, no one on the Heroes or the League or whatever is interested in getting the regular police involved, because if Malcolm was so, what's wrong with turning him over to this League of Assassins? I don't like the League of Assassins, but, I mean, if Malcolm were put on trial in a regular court of law, you really don't think people would be throwing around the death sentence for the deaths of 504 people, including Sarah? And drugging Thea and destroying the city block, people wouldn't be throwing around things like, death sentence? I don't know, I don't think that, what the League killing him is, necessarily wrong, considering all the magnitude of the crimes he'd done. He basically committed an act of genocide. Oh my goodness, it's completely ridiculous, the way, everyone is just oh, well, Thea will regret it. Well, will she? Why should Thea regret turning over the guy who killed a ton of people, destroyed a city block, drugged her, and forced her to kill someone against her will, and got someone else murdered? Why should she regret turning him over to some sort of authority for justice? Malcolm probably does deserve it, deserves something. Certainly not to be, free running around to go kill more people and manipulate more and hurt more people, which seems to be what everyone else wants him to do. Because Malcolm was completely free. Even after Malcolm found out what he did to Thea, Oliver still let him run around and do whatever. He didn't put him in any sort of I don't know, if he wanted to keep him close to Thea, didn't even confine him to any certain building or area. He wasn't even put on house arrest or anything. He wasn't taking leave on you. He was just allowed to run around and do whatever, which is oh my gosh, Oliver's so stupid. Oh my gosh. And then Oliver, and again, he says it's about Thea, and he justifies everything he does for Thea, even though he's completely ignoring what Thea herself is actually saying about what she wants. and but he still goes there, and he still goes to Nanda Parbat, and he admits that, oh, actually, it's not about Thea, it's about me, and not liking the fact that, there's someone out here who could beat me. And so he goes, he uses Thea as a smokescreen for his insecurities as an excuse to go and fight Ra's al Ghul again. Or rather, Ra's Australian, because he's Australian white guy, which really annoys me. I'll never get over that. Yeah, that's how I think of him now. He's not Ra's al Ghul, he's Rash Australian. But that's whatever I think. Oh, it was still just the stupidest thing, listening to that guy's this white Australian guy pretend to be like this thousands of years old, hundreds of years old, leader of this Asian-based League of Assassins. Oh, ugh. Oh my gosh. So, whatever. So Oliver puts him and Diggle's life in jeopardy to go face down Ra's al Ghul for Thea, but really for Oliver, which is stupid. Felicity decides that she's had enough of Oliver's death-defying stunts and just putting through all kinds of emotional turmoil. So she decides that she's gonna go over and fully commit to helping Ray, which who has yet to disappoint her, who's yet to put her through so much emotional turmoil. And so she goes over to Ray, makes him she goes over to Ray Palmer's, who's been, holed up inside of his place for a week straight, just working on stuff. She makes him stop what he's doing and eat and take a shower and go to bed, and then she and him get close and kiss and jump into bed together. And and then Ray realizes, after spending time with Felicity, realizes what he'd been missing for his suit, and he makes it, and he goes flying out the door. And which is funny and weird. I still don't understand the point of Ray. Mickey and I had a conversation about this. He came over to visit 2 weeks ago. We went and saw Jupiter Ascending, and we talked about this a little bit. I just don't see the point of Ray Palmer. I really don't. If he joined the team, he seems to want to, become a hero. What would his point be? Even if he didn't join Team Arrow, what would his point be? We already have John, who's got all of his military experience and who's right-hand man to Oliver. We already have Roy, who's the sidekick. We have Laurel, who's, sidekick, and we have Thea, who's not a sidekick, but, useful, and we have Felicity, who already has all the techno stuff. Any parts that Ray could, give, there's already someone on the team who could, give it and has been giving it longer and is a person we're more invested in. The only thing Ray could do is, the fact that he has, all these techno, all these cool techno gear at his fingertips that we don't really have anymore because Oliver lost his company. The fact that he's, wealthy and has all of these different resources, but that's really it. Mickey thinks, he said he saw this this theory that they were going to push John Diggle out and that Ray would take his place. But the thing is, John Diggle has a very special niche on the team that in his relationship with Oliver. When John's usually the one who brings Oliver back down to earth and is not afraid to tell it like it is to Oliver whenever he goes on one of his, self-righteous little, crusades. And Oliver respects Diggle because, he's older, he's more grounded, more put together, and has all that military experience. So, Roy's willing, speaking up a bit more now, and is willing to go up against Oliver a bit more now, but it's not really the same with coming from Roy or someone else as it is coming from Diggle, because of their relationship that they've been building up since season 1. So I just, if Diggle went out, I don't really see Ray being able to or anyone really being able to take that spot. You could push Roy out, but still, what's the point of that? I don't really see how that would be much of an switching one for the other. I don't see how that would be much of an improvement. So I mean, unless they turn him into like a villain or an anti-hero for them to deal with, I don't see how he could be like much of a why we have this need for him on the show. I really don't understand the need for him at all. Yeah. So we'll see how that goes. I still don't really understand where they're going for it, aside from to give Felicity a new love interest, which I like. The idea of Felicity being able to have a love interest and having someone else that she can go to instead of always pining over Oliver, who just does nothing but disappoints her. But still, I don't like it. We'll see how that goes. And Thea's stupid too. I mean, I understand she's in a very emotionally vulnerable place right now, but Thea, like, has no reason to feel guilt about what happened to Sarah. I mean, it's shocking and it's awful what she was made to do, but she was made to do it. And Laurel, who's been, like, just, going a little off the rails this season because of Sarah's death, is clear-headed enough to say it wasn't your fault, it was Malcolm's, and Thea doesn't believe it. Like, she just, feels awful about what happened to her, but, like, she was drugged, she was used, like, she's really no different than, like, being used than a gun. Like, we don't prosecute guns, we prosecute the people who shoot them. And she just, like, doesn't see that. And, like, she even starts feeling guilty about, towards the end of the episode, which was really, and this was really stupid. Like, Thea, after what Malcolm did to her, after what Malcolm did to the Glaze, she should not feel guilty about giving him up to the League of Assassins, who will actually hold him accountable for the things he's done. And Malcolm hasn't really been held accountable for the things he's done. He hasn't been, like, he can't be this nice businessman running this business and living in this mansion, and, he lost Tommy and everything, but he hasn't really been held accountable. He hasn't, like, he hasn't served any prison sentences. He hasn't had to, go up against any judges or anything. He hasn't been held accountable at all. He still travels, like, without too much difficulty. So, I don't think Thea should feel bad at all, and it just drives me nuts that that Oliver, even Thea, should ever suggest that she should. There's no reason for it at all. Yeah, it's completely ridiculous. Yeah, so, yeah, that drove me nuts, and we got to her, they're obviously trying to rebuild her relationship with Roy, even though I just feel like that isn't the chemistry and the nice part of the relationship really isn't there. That, the nice little play, what am I trying to say? Their nice little dynamic that they had in season 1 just isn't really there anymore. But they're clearly trying to build it back up with Roy. Roy takes her to that cop's family's house, and he, like, tells her that he, like, anonymously gives them, like, gifts and groceries and cash or whatever. Which is good. But, I mean, it was a nice little moment, but, again, it's like, these things that happen. Like, Roy was kidnapped and injected with a drug against his will that screwed up his mental state. It was not anything he did under that was not his fault. And, like, this suggestion, which the show, I mean, it kind of suggested that they shouldn't feel bad, but then it doesn't really commit to that. It just kind of goes back and forth because they want it both ways. And that's a whole problem. They know logically that things are Malcolm's fault. They know logically that the show knows logically that he should be held accountable, and that, everyone who, goes up against him, the League of Assassins, which they aren't good people, but they're right to want to, to punish Malcolm, like, and they're made out to be bad guys, and the show, like, suggests that, like, constantly, with all these little plot lines. It suggests that they know that it's right, to punish Malcolm, and that Theo's not, and that they know it's right that Thea's not guilty, and they know that it's right that Rory's not guilty, and they suggest those things, but because they also want the narrative drama, they refuse to commit to that, and they want it both ways, and in the end, that just kind of weakens the story, because it makes no sense for Thea to feel bad and, like, hold herself accountable. It makes no sense that she would tell Nisa, kill me for vengeance because because I was the one who shot Sarah, even though it was not her fault. And they want the narrative drama of Roy being angsty about the cop killing, even though he was injected unwillingly, kidnapped and injected unwillingly with a drug that made him go crazy, which is not his fault. So that when they want it both ways, they don't really get it anyway, and it just makes the story really weak. I just, I do enjoy watching these shows, but when they, want to have things both ways and then really have it no way, and it weakens the storyline, it's kind of ridiculous, and it's not as good of a story to watch. It really isn't. Oh my goodness. So, yeah. So it's just a shame. The story this week was not that great. The story, really, all season, has not been that great. It was not very tightly put together in the first place. It was holding on to the whole Malcolm storyline has been like hanging on a thread because they're trying to find more ridiculous justifications to keep Malcolm around and to make, to keep the story going, and they kept going to like all these ridiculous lengths to keep the secret from Thea and to justify that, and oh my gosh, and they really want to make the League of Assassins the bad guys, and they kept making ridiculous reasons to justify that, even though in this case the League of Assassins is very justified to want to go after Malcolm. And so the whole thing was just very ridiculous. Oh my goodness. And okay, side note, how the heck did Oliver subdue Nisa long enough to get her into that weird cage prison in the Arrow Cave? I do not believe that he could have done that. I do not believe that he could have done that. Which is why, like, it ended with him and her. They're like standing across from each other talking, and then you cut to the next scene, and suddenly she's somehow in this like weird cage prison in the Arrow Cave, like just sitting, doing a yoga meditation pose, and I was like, did she just surrender willingly just cause? Like, why? It was, again, weird, narrative justification for her being there, so Thea could confront her and tell her to kill, and offer her life to Nisa. Oh my goodness. Oh, this episode was weird. I know, I'm sure a lot of Felicity shippers aren't happy about Ray and Oliver. I saw everyone, about Ray and Felicity, I saw everyone freaking out on Tumblr about it. I feel your pain, fellow Felicity shippers. Ugh. But at this point, with Oliver just being so incredibly stupid, I can't be mad, because Felicity deserves better than Oliver and his stupidity. Oh my gosh. Oh, what an episode. No, they really, I hope that they try to fix this in the next, like, again, it's like it's kind of like Glee, and your show is in trouble when I am comparing the writing to Glee. Oh my goodness, it's like they want the big narrative plot points, but they won't try to find a logical way to get there. So they do a bunch of mental gymnastics and like glossing over facts and, character, whatever else, to get there. So they wanted it to end with Malcolm they wanted Malcolm to be turned over to the League. They wanted to get Oliver back to Nanda Parbat so he could be offered to become the next Ra's al Ghul. They wanted that showdown. They wanted that offer, which is fine. But like, so they couldn't figure out a way to do it without doing all these mental gymnastics to, make Malcolm to stick around a lot, for Oliver to want to go after and rescue Malcolm, even though it makes no sense. And for Thea, they wanted like this confrontation with Nisa and Thea, even though it makes no narrative sense, no character sense, for Thea to feel bad about what happened to her. I mean, of course, there's shock and stuff, but not to the point where, shock and feeling awful about it, but not to the point where she would think that she was justified to tell Nisa, kill me to avenge Sarah, because it makes no sense, because it wasn't Thea's fault. She was used like a gun, or she was literally like a bow and arrow. She was Malcolm's bow to throw a bunch of arrows and put a bunch of arrows into Sarah. So, oh my gosh, yeah, I was really disappointed. Like, the whole time I was watching this episode, and I really usually just enjoy episodes, like, the fight for the city, I was just like, woohoo, yeah, woo, you go, Gladers. It was great episode. I was really enjoying that episode, but the entire time I was watching this episode, I was just like yelling at the screen, "You're stupid! This is stupid! You're all really stupid! What the heck?" Oh my goodness. Okay. And so Ra's Australian has offered Oliver the chance to become the new Ra's al Ghul. It should be interesting. Some people are speculating that this means that Oliver is going to become Batman because the writers have basically stolen most of Batman's backstory and narrative from him for Green Arrow. And some people are speculating that that means that he's basically gonna become Batman. Roy's gonna become the new Arrow, and there's also speculation about John Diggle becoming Green Arrow, which a coworker told me about this. I had not heard this rumor, that there's a speculation of John Diggle becoming the Green Lantern, which kind of out of left field, but that would be cool. That would be cool. I mean, I feel like this show's already kind of bloated with superhero characters at this point, but that would be cool. It'd be interesting. I mean, I doubt DC's too eager to, is incredibly eager to jumpstart any movie Green Lantern stuff after Ryan Reynolds' bomb. So that character's probably a free game for the TV show universe. That'd be cool. They're talking. He said they're thinking about a spin-off or whatever. That's the rumor that my coworker told me. And he said, this is again hearsay from a coworker, that they talked to one of the writers and he was like, well, I can't say anything about Green Lantern, but I can tell you that there's something big coming up that we can't talk about. That there's something really big that's gonna happen, I guess at the end of the season or whatever, that they're keeping under wraps. And that may be Green Lantern, and then maybe Batman or Nightwing coming on. I don't know. That could be anything. So hopefully that something big will jumpstart this really lagging third season. Oh my gosh. We have really good standout episodes, like the episode where the city fought against Brick. I really enjoyed that. And then we have episodes like this. This season's been a really weird mixed bag. It's a real shame because I really did enjoy season 2. And, we have 8 episodes to go, so they still could turn it around and wind up having a great climax arc for the season. Who knows? But, oh my goodness, episodes like this remind me of why I did not like the show in season 1. Well, I guess that's about it. A bit of a shorter episode than usual, which I guess is fine. But, so to recap, Oliver's stupid, and Thea is stupid, and I hope Malcolm dies, and I don't like Ra's Australian, and I don't even mind Ray Palmer in this episode because he looks better in comparison to Oliver, because Oliver is being so stupid. So, yeah. Well, I guess that's about it. I think I was a little rambly this episode just because I just did not want to talk about how stupid everything is. Oh my goodness. Well, I will see you all next week. Hopefully, for a bit more well put together episode than this. No, I'm not going to see you next week. I'm not going to see you for a month. Curse you CWs and your stupid hiatuses. Grrr. Why? The CW is so terrible about their hiatuses. They really are. But when we come back, the Flash and the Arrow will both be starting up again, so that'll be nice. Well, I will see you all again in a month. Have a good night. Bye.